Good evening. Welcome to the February 25th regular board meeting for the Wenatchee School District. We will open with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Esta junta se lleva a cabo en inglés, pero comandos con servicio de traducción. Si alguien gusta hacer un momento propicio el respirar expresiones en español, por favor, indique su necesidad. We will now work through the agenda. Board, are there any proposed changes or modifications to the agenda? Hearing none, I will now move on to the consent agenda. The items on the consent agenda were sent to the board and posted online last week. The board has had the opportunity to review the materials and ask the superintendent any questions they may have about any items on the consent agenda. The consent agenda for this meeting includes the minutes for the February 11th regular board meeting, vouchers and payroll, personnel report, surplus, contracts, field trips, the December enrollment report, and February enrollment report. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
I second. Okay. It has been moved by Julie and seconded by Maria. Are there any discussions? No. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries, none opposed. So we will move on for our citizen comment. And then we will, if there are any members of the public would like to make a citizen comment, please sign up online 15 minutes before the meeting or complete a citizen comment form. Forms are available at the room's entrance and should be turned to the board secretary, Kim White. Is there any?
Yes, we do have one this evening, Kathleen McGuire.
Okay, so unless translation is required, each comment is limited to 3 minutes, and Ms. White will keep a timer that will notify you when your time expires. Individuals that need translation or interpretation will be given 4 minutes to make a comment, plus the time needed to complete translation. Please be aware that the board's role is to receive comments. They will not respond to questions or challenges. That the board's silence does not signal agreement or endorsement to the speaker's remarks.
Good evening, Superintendent Kalahar and members of the board. My name is Kathleen McGuire. I'm a parent in the district. I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight and first congratulate you on the levy passing and to thank you and the district for the hard work that you all put in communicating clearly the value of all the aspects of education that the district provides. I would also like to thank you for the recent communication reiterating the district's commitment to student safety with regards to immigration enforcement. The beauty, and I would argue the necessity of public schools, is to value, reflect, and uplift all students, regardless of race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, or any other aspect of identity. To this end, the district has several factors it measures to gauge student success, including if students feel seen, valued, feel safe, and know that they belong. I urge the board to maintain their commitment to these measures and their stated values, specifically as a I urge the board to maintain their commitment to these values and to these measures and their stated values, specifically as it applies to transgender students and their ability to fully and safely participate in all aspects of student life. As the district reviews policies in response to shifting federal resolutions, please remember and honor the diversity of the student population and their lived experiences, as these are the foundation of what make our district and our students strong, valuable, and worthy. Thank you for your time.
Next, I'll turn to Dr. Kalahar for special presentations.
Thank you very much. Let's jump in here. We are continuing to highlight student programs that are funded by the levy. And tonight we have a special privilege of having our students who have participated in Knowledge Bowl program under the tutelage of Professor Chris Cloak. So students, please feel free to join us at the podium and share how Knowledge Bowl has impacted your high school student experience. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you.
So we're in Knowledge Bowl. Basically what it is, it's teams of 3 to 6 people will compete to answer various trivia questions on like math, science, and history. And it's a way for us to find like-minded people and challenge our brains.
Yeah, it's really fun. We meet twice a week and we get together and practice different questions, and we basically just like go through like practice challenge rounds. And yeah, it's really fun.
So do you compete with other teams in the school, or do you compete?
We
With-
compete against other schools in our ESD. So like Moses Lake and Eastmont are who we directly compete with, but then we've played against like Cascade and Kashmir. So schools in the area.
I have a question. How many years have you been doing Knowledge Bowl?
I've only been doing it for 2.
I've also only been doing it for 2.
And if you don't mind me asking, what grade are you in? Are you seniors?
I'm a sophomore.
Sophomore. Okay. So, well, I'm just gonna say you're beginning young, you can carry on doing that. Knowledge Bowl can continue into university and college too. So, and I'm glad that you're still competing against other schools. I think it's a very special program, and congratulate you for taking it on and putting yourselves out there to have to stand up and answer questions across a very wide range of topics.
Can you remember a question from competition or practice that you can ask Superintendent Kalahar?
Sure.
No, they can't. No, they can't. And I think they wanted to ask Director Barron is who they wanted to ask. He's got the lived experience to answer those questions.
We had a question yesterday, actually, at our regional tournament where we qualified for state. That was outside of the polar regions, what is the most heavily glaciated region in the world?
I would suspect Central Asia, Himalayas area.
It's more specifically the Karakoram, but you would be correct.
Okay. You know something, I drove up the canyon up towards that about 8 or 10 years ago. It's amazing country. Thank you. I didn't get it right.
Precisely where that question should have gone. So that was well placed. Can you go back and enunciate something that we heard at the very end of your statement? Did you say last night you qualified for?
State tournament.
That's what I thought I heard. Fantastic. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing.
My question to you both is that what motivated you both to be on the Knowledge Bowl, and what has that taught you guys in the last 2 years?
We actually both had a friend in one of our classes last year who had told us to join. And she was very adamant that we join, so. Oh, sure. Wait, do you have a question?
Or have you both challenged Mr. Cloak in some of these questions?
We never play him directly. Another question. They sort of go in one ear and out the other. We'll run with that. We're being told to ask you who was the last president to not run for a second term.
Biden.
Correct.
Excellent. Well, if there's no other questions, we want to thank you for coming this evening and congratulate you on your winning and moving on to state. So we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Professor Cloak. All right, next up, we have our ASB updates. Do we have some representatives from Wenatchee High School? Come on up and join us at the podium. Thanks for being here.
Hello, everyone. So nice to see you guys again. I just wanted to start off by apologizing for my absence at last month's meeting. It actually fell on the same day as our annual Janice France Talent Show. So I was preoccupied that night. We've had an extremely busy past couple of months, putting on events, fundraising, and continuing to create a culture of inclusivity and positivity. First, upon our return from winter break, our team worked vigorously to collect winter wishes from students around the school. We fundraised to make these wishes come true and then purchased and delivered every single student's wish to their classroom. This is always such a fun and fulfilling project, and of course, students love it as well. Next, we worked on our annual Janice France Talent Show. Janice France is a traditional talent show that ASB does every year. And we raise money for a local beneficiary in need. This year's was mother of students at Wenatchee High School, Jill Gentry. Our activities coordinators, Ava Ballou and Celia Keys, worked so hard along with our ASB crew to put on 3 nights of extreme talent. This year's talent show was a great success, and ASB thanks all of you who came to support and watch our talent show. Moving on, we had our winter club fair in which every club at the school can set up a booth and then publicize and recruit people for their club. Another super fun event that really helps boost engagement around the school. Our amazing senior senate ran by Zaylee Stegman hosted a senior movie night. We watched 10 Things I Hate About You, and we ate lots of yummy snacks and popcorn. In addition to these events, we put on some fun Valentine's Day fundraisers, began the candidate search for next year's executive team for ASB, and announced this year's prom theme, which will be a night in Greece. So that is very exciting. Finally, I want to shout out our ASB team for being so dedicated and hardworking these past couple months. It's evident that we all have the same goal in mind, and that is to keep Wenatchee High School a safe, inclusive, and happy place to be. That's really all I have for you guys, unless you have any questions.
What's the most exciting thing on your horizon for the next 3 weeks?
Ooh, the most
ASB style, not personally.
in these next 3 weeks, we are going to actually begin starting to meet with all of our executive candidates for next year. We actually had a meeting today where we had 6 students who were interested in running come talk to us. And this is always a super exciting time of the year because we get to start building our team and even planning for events for next year upcoming. So yeah, it's really exciting. Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you so much. We
Yes.
appreciate seeing and hearing all the wonderful things that's happening at the high school.
Thank you so much.
All right.
I'll
thank
see you guys next month.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. And we have Westside High School up next. Thank you for being here.
Hello, my name is Layla Ornelas with the Leadership Club at Westside High School. I'm here to tell you what's been happening since we were here last month. We had our Wellness Day on February 4th, during which we covered topics such as first aid, consent, drugs and alcohol, stress and anxiety hacks, and we had a community resource fair. Leadership is now working on our annual spaghetti feed and silent auction for May 15th. We are on the hunt for donations for the silent auction. Any individual, family, or business that is interested in donating, please contact the Westside office. This year's recipient is a former Westside student, Elliot Babcock. She is 16 years old and is battling stage 3 nodular melanoma. We will be having a live student art auction and live music as well. Leadership is also starting to work on prom, which is May 9th, and we have decided that it'll be a Disco Decades theme. Leadership Club recently just did a Valentine's Day fundraiser to raise money for prom. We did candygrams, and all the candy was donated by Sage Hills. Leadership Club is also collecting cans. We're going to be recycling them for money. Also doing the world a favor by getting all those energy drink cans off the streets. Our mock trial team recently made school history for the first time. Westside had its own team at the district competition this past weekend. We won 2 trials and lost 2 trials. But we had 5 students nominated for the best witness and 1 student nominated for the best attorney. This upcoming weekend, Duke Hamilton will be representing Westside at DECA State, competing in the human resources category. This brings us to the end of our update. And do you guys have any questions for me?
I'm going to ask you a variant on the same question. If you look ahead for the next few weeks, wider one, of all the projects that you and your colleagues are working on, what's your favorite one?
My favorite is probably the spaghetti feed and the silent auction. I think it's really good to connect with all these businesses, especially on the Ave, because there's some really good connections. And I just like connecting with them and knowing we have some support on our side with being such a small school.
Who specifically do we get in contact with to donate items for the spaghetti feed auction?
You can get in contact with Jennifer Devereaux right here, or you can get in contact with our leadership teacher. Her name is Sheena. She will be more than happy to hear a call from anybody.
What kind of items are you looking to be donated?
Anything. So we are getting donations from restaurants like gift cards. We are asking hotels. Last time they donated a full night's stay. We're asking the skydiving place in Chelan to see if they'll donate a certificate. So just lots of different things. We're going to make different baskets that people can put little drawings in and see if they win.
Just a token. Last year's auction, I won a night's stay at Sun Mountain Lodge, which my wife and I just stayed there over Valentine's Day weekend. So greatly appreciate it. Yep, that was wonderful.
Will you have the student art for the live auction items again?
Yes, we should be.
Excellent. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
being
guys
here.
for your time. Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have a presentation on the Big Six data point number 5, on track for graduation. And we have representatives from our college and career success team with us this evening, prepared to share us how they are making a significant impact on the transition from middle school to high school and beyond. So Jake Buchholz and Tanya Brown, thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. We'll hold it this way. We can hand it back and forth. Thanks for having us tonight. So yeah, we're coming at this, as far as we talk about on track to graduate, it's really looking at our angle is how are we preparing students in the transition to move into high school and have that relevancy right away and understand what it is that they're working towards and why they're working towards it. So last spring, in a board workshop, we talked about the pieces that we were looking to put into place to develop this team, or the next step in development of the team. And so we did that. And then now here we are to kind of talk about what we've done so far this year with the college career success team. So Big Six number 5, students are on track to graduate by the end of their freshman year and beyond. So as a team, we're working hard to help students find a goal. Tanya, the team has 5 different individuals that are on the team. Tanya is one of them. And we're working across all 3 middle schools to work on the transition from 7th to 8th to 9th. And then we get into some accelerated pathway stuff from there that we've just rolled out this year. So Tanya's going to talk a little bit about these grade levels.
Great. So I'm not going to go through and read all of this information to you, but these are the things that we have been doing at the middle schools at the 7th grade level. The high overhead pass is we've been working with them on 21st century skills, and we've also been working with them to pick their 5, their 5 favorite careers to explore, because we take kids out on job shadows and we take them out on experiences to see what they like and what they might not like. So we're hoping that they start early and can find something. We have a room at each of the buildings that we can pull kids into in small groups, or some of them just come in to eat lunch there and meet like professionals from the field during lunchtime. 8th grade, we've been working with onboarding them, and they've done a few more assessments like their learning styles inventory. So we kind of know what kind of learners they are, and they learned about what kind of learners they are. And we've been working with them about the different programs of study that we offer at the high school. There are 24 different programs of study in the CTE pathways. 9th graders, we have met with all 9th graders that have been at school when we've tried to call for them, and we tried to call for them multiple times if they weren't. So we've met with them. We've worked on building their resumes. We've worked with them on putting in all of their experiences that they've done, whether it's volunteer work or actually paid work or extracurriculars. And we're having them put all of that information into our school system so that they can go back to it. It has been now adopted by the state. So if they move to other districts, that information is still in that platform. So that's a great way for them to capture what they're doing as they're doing it and not try to remember when they're seniors applying for different things.
All right. So as we talked about it just a little bit ago, I just want to reiterate, as we talk about those different things, the connection to on time to graduate is 9th grade is a critical year. And you know that, we know that. And how do we define, or how do we provide a vision for a student and to build on the relevancy that they need? So they need to feel like what they're doing is relevant to what they want to do. So we're kind of taking that end vision, helping to build that, and then work backwards from there. And that provides a lot of context for the classes that they're taking. And that has shown to be very helpful in the conversations that we're having for students and the effort that they put in and the connections that they make with their classes. So when we talk about the transition, this team, it is going down. It's weekly. We're meeting with 7th and 8th graders all the way through the year. And then right now it's super, super heavy, spending a ton of time with individual conversations with students. And in those conversations, we have implemented some new strategies this year to ensure that the choices students are making are being communicated home and coming back. And then there's kind of a little bit more back and forth than there ever has been. And that's a major step forward in our process for getting everybody around the same idea for that student. So yeah, we are in the process of meeting with all 9th through 11th that requested an accelerated pathway. So you may have seen that roll out a few weeks ago as we rolled out accelerated pathways. Right now, we are sitting at a little over 600 students that have chosen an accelerated pathway. I suspect we will probably land right around 700 when we're all done. And so all of those meetings have to occur in the next 4.5 weeks. We have a lot of work. It's a major onboarding process. It is something that we knew would happen. And we know that in years to come, that squeeze won't be there because they'll already be in. And now we have all year to talk with students over and over and over again. But right now we're feeling it. So, but that's an exciting problem, if you want to call it that, exciting thing to have. So we are also going in, CCS team is going in with our high school counseling team into our 10th grade and 11th grade classes as they are, working on their choices that they're making. So these are students that did not choose an accelerated pathway, but they're going in as support for other students who maybe didn't make that choice. Same with 11th grade. And as Tanya's going to talk a little bit about School Links, which you may or may not be familiar with, but that's the platform that we use for organizing all of this.
So the nice part about this platform is they're using it all the way through. So 7th grade on. And this particular page, students can put their information in here. We can run reports and say, oh, who all wants to be an engineer? And we just have a list of those students so that then if we have an opportunity coming up, we can invite those students to those opportunities. And they can go in and change this anytime they want. If they want to change their career 5 times a day, they're welcome to do that. We're at least hoping that they're changing it every year as we're having the conversation, or they're at least starting to solidify that that's the one for sure that they want to do. Right out of this program, they can just download a resume and it makes it for them. They can make it look better or whatever, but it has all the information in there because of them doing the work in this. So that's really nice to have that available to them as they're putting stuff in. We have also been doing a lot of community connecting. So we've been to Sunrise, Confluence, and East Wenatchee Rotaries. We've gone to the Economic Vitality Committee and we're interacting with businesses. We're trying to find people that are wanting to spend time sharing what they do for a living with students. We did career meet and greets at lunchtime. So like we've had pilots come into the middle schools and they're at lunchtime for any kids that put they wanted to be a pilot in here. We had 3 gentlemen from Bonneville Power come into the high school and they met with high school students that think they want to be linemen. Tomorrow, actually, we have 13 engineers coming up to the high school during second period, and they're meeting with all of the 10th through 12th graders that put in that they wanted to become engineers. So we've got engineers from civil, mechanical, biomedical, software engineers. So we're trying to expose kids to people that do the jobs that they think they might want to do, as well as take them to those places so they can see what the job looks like.
Questions?
In the middle school, future ready rooms, can you sort of describe a little bit about what's going on, how many people might be in there, what the room looks like, where the students come often or never, and how many of them you touch, and just to get an idea of what's going on?
Well, kind of depends on which thing we're doing. When we were meeting with small groups, there were 4 individuals within the room meeting with 3 to 5 kids at a time within the same space. At lunchtime, we can have, 20 kids that want to come in and hear from a pilot about what they're doing and asking questions. It also is a place where kids drop in at lunchtime, like they want a quieter space to be, and so they will come into those rooms. So it just kind of depends on what the event is that's happening in those spaces. There's different kinds of seating. We've made it so that it looks more professional. There's, a big long conference table that has comfortable chairs. There's some high tables. There's some low tables. There's some couches so that they can find the space that works great for them. Trying to make them as inviting as possible in all the different middle schools.
Sounds like you're trying to make it a highlight room that everybody knows about and most students would like to use. You feel that you're getting through to the full range of students?
I think so. I think it's starting to catch on. At the high school, I can speak for our room. It's busy. Like Jake will walk by and be like, at lunchtime, because there's so many kids in there. So yeah, it's a good problem to have. I think by us meeting with students and building those relationships around this stuff that's relevant to them, they will come ask us questions at random times because they feel comfortable, because they've actually had the conversation already.
Can you maybe just clarify for me the difference between the accelerated pathway and the traditional pathway, and whether there's the opportunity to opt in and out over the 4 years?
Yeah. So when we talk about accelerated pathway, what those are, there are several accelerated pathways. So inside of that program, if a student is, say, working towards their DTA, their direct transfer associates, or they're working towards the GERs, the general education requirements for a university. We also have specific technical degrees that we're working with Wenatchee Valley College on, whether it's engineering tech or business computer tech or early childhood. So those are in place in the industrial technology, electronics. So those 4 are in place where students can work towards and complete a very large portion of those degrees. And then we also have specific programs of study, not all 24, but certain ones identified that end up with a certification from some organizing body, whether it's the Department of Health or Nursing Board or CompTIA or whatever. So those things are identified because they layer on an additional level of specific criteria on top of the high school graduation requirements. That takes a lot more intense focus on how do we schedule this and how do we make this happen for a student in their time at Wenatchee High School before they leave. So that's kind of the overview. Can they opt in and out? Absolutely. And so at the end of the way it's designed, everybody comes into high school for ninth grade. Our goal or our motto is get connected and get settled, right? So we want students to connect with all things of high school experience, sports, clubs, whatever it is. And we want them to kind of settle into that freshman year, take some classes. They're not getting behind with any of the accelerated pathway stuff. Then at the end of ninth grade, or right now, as they're starting to plan for 10th and beyond, every student has an option to choose an accelerated pathway. And they start that just by saying, I would like an accelerated pathway. And then our team meets with them. And they talk about all the options. If they didn't choose that at the end of ninth grade, they could always choose it the following year. So at every semester, there will be an opportunity to say, I would like to change my focus. So if that's the case, they move over to an accelerated pathway counselor in this team who has the ability to and the time to dive into all the nuances so that they can serve that student.
I appreciate you meeting with, reaching out to sending to parents in eighth grade, as a mother of a middle schooler. That has been a big challenge, just the communication both ways. But as we know, the whole college experience, applying credit, all of that is very complex, even as, learning the different pathways. What's the approach to make sure that all parents whose children are interested in the different pathways have this information that's digestible to their needs? Whether it's a first generation student or somebody that's well-versed, somebody that's monolingual in Spanish. What's the approach in regards to informing our parents in regards if this is a pathway they choose for?
So the approach is going to be multi-pronged. So when we first kind of developed the concept of the team and when we talked last spring, it's really, I think the phrase that I use that I still stick to is we want to have high quality, direct two-way communication because there's certain things that are embedded within that. So high quality, accurate, timely, good information, right? The direct is what I think we've done in the past is relied too much on passive communication. So we post something to a website or put it on Facebook or whatever, and then we wait for people to come to us based off of that. And so the direct or maybe active might be a better term is for us to proactively reach out and do that on a personal level or at least on very small groups. An example for that, like just take this engineering thing, for example. Let's say when we are able to narrow down this group of students and we say we have 15 students, which is a small number for the high school, that have this interest, we can directly reach out to families and say, we're contacting you because your child has shown interest in this. We would like to tell you more about it. We'd like to serve your child to meet this goal. And then that opens the dialogue. And that would happen. Our goal is that happens in whatever language the family speaks. So we don't have all team members in place. I still need to hire a few team members this spring to go into next school year, but we're getting by with what we have right now. So that is the goal, and that's how we would do that. So direct two-way, and then having the personnel to have individual conversations with families, sit side by side. I think, sorry, nothing can replace that. And there's a continuum of personal service and efficiency. And we got to find the right balance of those two things.
Excellent. I've got one more for you. Jake and Tanya, thank you for being here tonight. This is sorry about that. Stop talking with my hands. This is the first year of our college and career success team. So throughout this year, what has encouraged you and what has surprised you throughout the process?
What's encouraging is how engaged kids are when we meet with them. Like adults don't give kids enough credit. They have their ideas. They know what they want to do. They might just not be telling us. And so being able to have their voices heard has been super encouraging to me. What has surprised me is I think that it doesn't matter who the kid is. Everybody's got something that they're thinking they want to do. And so we're not hearing a lot of the IDKs, which is I don't know. And lots of teachers know that answer because you see it a lot on papers. So it's one of those things that we're not seeing that when we start talking about what they want to do beyond high school. So it gives them a reason to do high school.
Thank you for that. And we're very thankful for the presentation. We're going to be talking about our Big Six data points next. And when we come to Big Six data point number 5, we'll be able to see that there's some fluctuation in those scores where we're really, really excited about the impact that you're all making. So thank you very much. Okay. And with that, we'll move right on into the presentation on the Big Six data points. I just want to thank School Board of Directors for the time tonight. The information that I'm bringing to you tonight is a few months later than I would like. The availability of some of the data to access was a little bit later in this school year than we've had in previous years, but we have it now. The data that we are sharing tonight, I need to get the Thank you. Yes, thanks, Ron. So the data that we're sharing tonight is a culmination of year 3 Big Six data from 23-24 school year. And along the way this year, we've had presentations directly related to each of the Big Six data points, including the one that you just saw in Big Six data point number 5. And that is representing the work that's being done to impact year 4 data, 24-25. I also want to clarify with the board that we'll be tracking, we are tracking progress on multiple static indicators. So the data that we're sharing with you is not cohort data that follows a particular group of students. This is new data for each year and each student group. So each new data set represents different students as they reach milestones in the data as well. Okay, perfect. And so we'll start off here looking at who we are as a district. We have our student demographics with our head count, including Running Start students and Open Doors. Sean's not here, but he would want me to recognize that. We also have our race and ethnicity data showing 55.7% Hispanic Latino numbers. We also have our program numbers on the other side showing our multilingual learners at 25%. Our low-income students at 66%, and our students with disabilities at almost 16%. And the next slide has our demographics related with our teaching staff. So we have 486 teachers, as you can see on the chart there, which 68% of them hold master's degrees and 17.4% have national board certification. And the average year of experience is 13.5. You'll also see the majority of our teaching staff at 70% are women, and our teaching staff at 78% is predominantly white. Okay, and we'll jump into the Big Six data points here. Number 1 is experience high quality instruction. So students receive and participate in grade level or beyond standards, instruction, and assignments. And as we jump into the data here, you can see that we have almost a 10% increase in students receiving and participating in grade level and beyond standards, instruction, rigorous tasks, assignments, and activities. We have a 21.8% increase in our teachers using strategies to elicit 100% engagement. And we have 12% increase in teachers noticing and adjusting when students are not engaged. And this data comes from our classroom observation tool and our walkthrough data, which you all have been able to participate in this year. And we have a few more walkthroughs coming up in March. Let's see, the data reflects the 23-24 school year, where we increased our efforts to include building administrators in our walkthrough data and also to increase the end value, which increases our validity and reliability of the data. Also on October 8th, we had a first presentation of the Big Six data points, and we heard about Wenatchee School District's essential strategies and a review of the training that we had last year. And then for this academic year, we learned about academic discussion, as well as how to build a culture of accountable talk. We also learned about what we want our students to say instead of "I don't know." We want to hear things like, "May I have time to think? May I ask another expert in the room? Can you repeat the question?" We also learned about the QSSSA process: question, signal, STEM, share, and assess. All right. Big Six data point number 2, belong and are connected. Students know they belong, they are seen, valued, and heard, and they have healthy relationships with with staff and peers. And we can go through the data here. We can see that we had a 5% increase in the percentage of students who feel safe. We saw a slight increase in students feeling that they are treated with respect. 2.8% increase in students who feel that there is an adult at the school who can encourage them. And those 3 data points come from our annual culture and climate survey, which will open up here very soon in late March for the 24-25 school year. And then the bottom 2 pieces of data, we see a 4.3% increase in students with 2 or fewer absences per month. And then a very slight increase in the percentage of students that are not excluded from class due to behavior incidents. These last 2 data sets were the reason for the lag in getting the full set of data to the school board. For some reason, attendance and discipline data didn't come out in the normal time that we'd like to see it. And then a presentation that went along with data point number 2 on November 12th, you heard from Alfonso and Nancy and about our family advocate team, along with our migrant student advocates, about the work that they do to help students know they belong and have healthy relationships with staff. This presentation described the key link, which we believe our family advocates and our migrant student advocates are, between schools, our families, our communities, resources, the school administrators, our teachers, and parents and families. Reading on grade level. Students will read on grade level by 3rd grade and beyond. We are continuing to build on our tools and strategies to help our students read on grade level. We saw a slight decrease in the percent of 3rd grade students scoring at or above in the Spring iReady. We also saw a 1.3% drop in our 3rd graders scoring proficient or above on the ELA Smarter Balanced Assessment or above on Spring iReady. Saw a slight increase in 3rd through 8th graders who scored at or above in the Spring iReady. And then a 1.6% drop in our number of 3rd through 10th graders scoring proficient or above on the English Language Arts Smarter Balance Assessment. And I do want to add that we now have another metric, which Heidi has shared with us as well. We know that our foundational knowledge and our our skills scores for reading based on our Smarter Balance assessment is 63.6% meeting standard. And this is that newer indicator of success on the OSPI state report card. And if you remember, we had a school board meeting on December 10th, where we heard from each of our building leaders about their reading data individually, and then what each building was intentionally doing to move the needle on their reading scores through their school improvement plans, through their learning improvement plans, and through their PLC groups. That was a good meeting. Lots of great information. Okay. Okay, Big Six data point number 4, ready for algebra. Students will be on grade level or beyond by 8th grade in algebra. And as we see here, and this was our presentation yesterday, folks, in our board workshop yesterday afternoon, and we had our learning and teaching team present to us. So here we have 2 data points here. We see a slight decrease in the percentage of students in grades 3 through 8 scoring proficient or above on the Math Smarter Balance assessment. And then we also have, we see a very tiny increase, but it is an increase in the percentage of K-8 students scoring mid on grade level or above in the Spring Math iReady assessment. And we also know that we have foundational knowledge and skills scores for our math based on the Smarter Balance assessment, and that's 51.6%. And as I mentioned yesterday in our board workshop, you all heard from the learning and teaching team about the work around students being on grade level or beyond in 8th grade for algebra. And we know this takes an entire system to make a goal such as this happen. And we do have work to do in the world of math. We also learned about how the strategic and systemic processes in the district are moving us closer to understanding and closing the gap on our math readiness. We talked about from the board level and the superintendent level to the instructional leaders level, to the learning improvement team, and to the PLCs, and then the reverse cycle for the data to come closer. So that was a great presentation we had yesterday. Heidi, thanks to your team for being there and taking us through it. All right, and we just had our presentation on Big Six data item number 5, on track for graduation. And of course, our college and career success team is only one aspect of that work, but it was an important aspect and a new piece of information for us to look at. And we do see that we had a 4.5% decrease in the percentage of students who passed all courses in 9th grade. We know there is work to be done in this area, and we know that we will continue to do that work. And I'm excited to hear more about the evolution of our college and career success team. I didn't realize there were more positions to hire coming next year, so we've got that. And really what we're working for is preparing our students for short-term realities of passing their classes in 9th grade. That's what this metric is built on, as well as the long-term realities of post-secondary education and adulting. All right. Big Six data point number 6, involved in real-world and relevant learning. Students are engaged in a continuum of learning experiences that create awareness, exploration, preparation, and work experience to be future ready. Now, this one we haven't heard yet, obviously, right? So on March 25th, we will have the pleasure of hearing from CTE Director Jake Buchholz, who was just here, about more about the Accelerated Pathways program and what Wenatchee High School has in store for their students in the years to come. And I will take us through the data points here quickly. We see a 7.2% increase in the percentage of K-6 participation in the science field experiences. We saw a 2.3% increase in 7-12 grade students enrolled in CTE courses. Saw a slight decrease in the number of students attending CTE field experiences. However, we are still at 96.8 on that, so that's a good number to stay. We almost doubled the percentage of 912 students participating in job shadows, career launches, internships, apprenticeships, and worksite learning. And finally, tripled the percentage of 9 through 12th graders earning industry recognized certification. Let's see here. I gotta remember to move the slide here. So our strategic plan is a roadmap to fulfill our promise to students. Our students come to us with unique lived experiences, starting points, and needs. Our strategic plan provides a framework within which those differences are strengths. And I will just add, and I know that you feel the same, that as a school district, we are very proud of the strong work that is being done in our schools and classrooms throughout the district. Our staff work tremendously hard to lay a foundation for our students to learn and grow into themselves as individuals. We are making incremental strides to achieve the goals set out in this strategic plan. And again, this is year 3 data for the 2023-24 school year. And we will have more specific data from the 24-25 school year, including our ELA and reading, as well as math data scores later in the year. And I think that's the end of my slides. So if the board has any questions, concerns, celebrations about the presentation, or if there's any information that I can bring back to the board to show or support the work being done in any of the Big 6 data point items, I would love to do so. Thank you for the time.
So I guess I'll go first.
Yeah, please.
Quite honestly, year 3 of a strategic plan, this is a little disappointing. And not to criticize the work that's being done, because I know we've had some really good workshops, and you know, I feel like our teaching strategies are there, but what is our solution then? Because we're, you know, barely making strides in some areas, it looks like, and going backwards. And granted, I realize that we launched a plan coming right out of a pandemic, and we're seeing you know, it's not going to be, data's not going to be perfect for a while, and we're going to continue to struggle with that. But I had expected, with the clear direction and some of the really impressive teaching strategies, honestly, that we've been exposed to, that these would be better.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of, what adjustments are we making to move the needle a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. And I think that the majority of the moving the needle presentations and information that you've heard have been throughout this year. It's literally, we have this information that we're showing is a little bit lagging. So it's the 23-24 data. So I think the information that you are hearing from each of these presentations are what we're hoping will turn the needle and move us in the right direction. So for our students moving forward, continuing to use the PLC process, the school improvement process, and the learning improvement team process to help move the needle on those students. In English language arts, I think it's the continuation of the essential strategies for all of our students, continuing working on structured literacy and supporting intervention processes throughout. Math, we learned about our three reads language routine yesterday, and following that continuum and doing that work. So we're we don't know if each one of those is going to be the answer, but that's the work that we're investing in it. So it's good question, Julie. Other thoughts?
I'm going to make a mathematics comment. When you're trying to turn something around, there's a difference between acceleration and velocity. When we're looking at the data, we look at the velocity. The acceleration is the method and work that's necessary to turn things into a higher trajectory. I also would love to have seen more encouraging results, no question about that. So we cannot do that. But I don't think that it is correct to suddenly look for quick alternative approaches. I genuinely believe that the solid work is good. I also think, like, when you start moving a boulder, the first millimeter takes much more effort than the centimeter and the meter. Mm-hmm. So no, I am equally concerned, and I really hope that we see that. But I think we do have to give patience and continue not letting up in determination.
Appreciate that.
I guess for me, it's, I'll continue, and how are we, is the intervention we're doing for our low performance sufficient to narrow that gap? And as I ask the question, I mean, it's challenging with all the budget, staff reductions and all of that. But do we have the right scaffolding, supports, intervention to support our lowest, our low score students?
It is a good question. I mean, we feel like we do have the evidence-based programming in place, but we can always get better at our processes and our program, and always get better at supporting our students that have the greatest needs. Yeah, and we can do that. I believe we can do that through our learning and teaching, professional development, and the programs that we're implementing over time.
And I know we've implemented, Heidi, the approach for all learners. But
Oh, yeah.
it's very evident that there needs to be that extra layer.
Yeah.
I don't know what it looks like. But identifying, and there's so many different factors, whether it's language, disability, learning, IEPs. Anyways, again, narrowing that gap, I think identifying those will definitely support the growth.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I think I would add to what Maria is saying there is when we're looking at aggregates, and I sort of put a blanket over the data in a way, but one way that you could look at what can we do that's different is by looking at the separate compartments of different kinds of students and seeing whether their differences and nuances can be put in. And, I would assume and hope that that's what you are doing, but that would be an area of search.
Also, I got one comment. Just to kind of touch base with what Maria has said, targeting not just our lower, just socioeconomic group of folks too, but also making it more of a wraparound approach also, because learning these strategies is also repetitiveness, and not only just practicing it into the school though, but you can also do this at home as well. And I'm nodding my head too, Heidi, but isn't that encouragement, building that transparency and amongst with the families as well? And I don't know how you make that bigger and make that to share that with families, with those students that have made the disabilities, or there's just that language barrier in whatever the case may be in the home, to have educators or come in, or the volunteers, whoever at the school, show this is what we're working on. This is how our students are doing it. You can toggle this and do this back at home for whatever social or family situation that may be as well. That way, those numbers you can see grow, and then you can see that performance years to come. So
Yeah, if I remember right after COVID, we started doing a lot more tutoring, making that available. And I don't see the stipends coming out in our report, so I assume we don't have as much of that, if any, at all. But yeah, I mean, once you start looking at data, you want more data. And, the questions I have become, what is the correlation here to teaching staff? And are we able to meet the needs? Kind of to Maria's question, are we able to meet all the needs as adequately as we could? Because in my mind, I would have expected to see actually a higher jump between 22 and 23, because we were kind of more rolling out of pandemic, getting legs under us, but then making some pretty big growths in that year. So it was a little surprising to see it even that close in what I would consider maybe a bigger opportunity for leap year, and then slow down. Because I do agree with Martin's perspective too. It's going to take a while to build that foundation, and then we're going to see some growth. So it was just kind of maybe my own preconceived ideas of what I would expect to see. But, are we tracking between our loss of enrollment and our loss of teaching staff, what dynamic that's having on this? Are we losing an extreme amount of high performers and that's bringing stuff down? Are we not bringing the kids who need more supports up adequately? I don't know that we can correlate all of that, but it starts begging the questions of what are the other things in addition to, because I feel like our strategies are pretty confident. I love what I hear from these workshops and what we're implementing.
Yes.
That's why it's so frustrating to see this going, but
Mhm.
why are we going backwards? Why are we only a percent away? And like I said, I realize there is a growing factor in that, but it
Yep.
just kind of.
No, I appreciate that. And I do think that the board's emphasis and the high school's emphasis and our middle school's emphasis on participation in the Smarter Balance Assessment is going to help us a little bit in some of those areas as we work to negate a 30% non-participation rate in our district. So some of those scores become non-scores and they impact our data big time. And so as we work to really make sure that everyone understands the importance of testing, we can make some of those strides. And I'm not saying all the answers are built into that, but that's a place for us to start. I was just looking at some data that Heidi sent me today that we had in our district. We had over 72 students who had parent refusals to test, and that's this year's data. So we're still working on that piece and trying to impact and impart on our community the importance of that testing. And that is not solely the answer, but as we prepare students not only for the test and through the test, also preparing students how to take that test is important as well. So just small nuggets of information, but I really appreciate the deep thinking and the information coming from the board, because you're right. When we talk about our academic areas, we do want to see more growth and improvement, and we do have some nice highlights in the other 6 areas, but the academic focus is where we want to be. So I thank everyone for their time and great comments.
Just one
Yeah,
more thing.
please.
I know you inherited this strategic plan. This was not a strategic plan that you totally walked into this in your current role. One of the things that last time we had that there was data presented to us, I think everybody by now knows how I feel about standardized testing. So, I take the SBA for what it's worth. But I still want to see a CFA comparison. What does CFA stand? Classroom formative assessment? Common formative assessment, because I know my personal experience with my student, what his output and grade in the classroom is significantly different than a standardized test. And so I would still like to see a comparison of, okay, this is where our third grade classes or grade group band is in the SBA, but this is where they are in their formative assessments.
Yeah, I'd echo that too, because I was one of those students that I had massive test anxiety and couldn't test. And the irony being I picked a profession where you had to test into it. But the amount of work I had to put into doing that was extreme. And so I do worry about our kids having test fatigue because they're doing these iReady, they're doing these SBAs. It's no surprise that some parents are choicing them out of them because they don't understand what a state of Washington scorecard means versus what their student, what's actually preparing their student for maybe the next level in school. So, some education needs to go on there. I wish maybe there wasn't so much emphasis on standardized testing, but I think that would be a good comparison to have, is saying, hey, this is what it looks like just based on this testing data. But if you really look at what our students know through their class work, because that's really what moves you along at this grade. It's not until you get to college where it's 80% of your grade is your final or something like that. But that I think would be a better indicator of are our students actually learning real world things, and seeing that would help offset probably some of the concerns we have just looking at SBA data.
Well, that's a good point, both Maria and Julie. As we were developing the slide presentation, I was thinking about adding some slides, not only from the OSPI report card on some of the foundational skill scores. I can't say that, skills scores. It's a tongue twister. I thought about adding some of those pieces, and then I was thinking of, is that I was just kind of thinking, is that disingenuous to the transparency that we want to share? But I do believe that we could at least add those pieces in as other components, even though they haven't been specifically chosen as metrics for this particular strategic plan initiative, but we could share those pieces. So that's something that with the board's approval, we'll do in the future. Yeah.
And I like that. One just random thought that came to my mind is anyone working with the OSPI about just refining this SPA requirement or process? Because I think we're just in a different generation of student where their attention spans are so short because of phones and things like that, that the idea of sitting for tests and multiple tests is just, maybe it's a real life skill they need, but it's one that I don't think, I just wonder if they may be as smart as anything, but they're just not capable of sitting there doing that. And I don't know, I mean, that's outside this board's work or anything, but I just am wondering if there's any conversations about, you know, adapting the tests or requirements to the student population we have these days.
That's a great question. I don't know. I know there's always conversations around assessment reform in the state, but I don't know any particular conversations about matching assessment with our new learners per se, but that very well could be a conversation that I'm just not privy to. Yeah, that's good. A good point. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Next, our action item is our student calendar for 2025-2026 school year. And so do you?
Yeah, just the board packet was in the board packet was proposed a student calendar for the 25-26 school year. As noted in Kelly's board memo, the board agreed that the 25-26 calendar should or would mirror the calendar approved by the 24-25. And yeah, and it does. And I think that it's also in line with Eastmont and Cashmere's spring break, which is great. So we want to make sure that piece is aligned so that we have people that teach in Cashmere and their kids go to school here. They want to be able to take their breaks at the same time. So yeah, I think the next piece is to ask for a motion.
Do I have a motion to approve the student calendar for the 25-26 school year as presented?
I move that we accept the student calendar for 25-26 school year.
I'll second.
Okay, it has been moved by Maria and seconded by Julie. Any discussion? Moving on, well, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay.
I do have one follow-up question, though. I assume it was going to require a resolution to waive school days like the last one. If it's the same number, do we need to do that?
Yes. Yes, it will, and we will bring that resolution back at a different date. Thank you.
So moving on, our next order of business is the superintendent report.
Okay, well, I'm going to start off with some fun state athletics. Boys swim and dive had a great showing at the state tournament and with an eighth place overall. And we've been hearing a lot about Ben Madsen. So he's been destroying records and then destroying them again. And so that's really, really cool, and ended up walking away with All-American title. So that's pretty exciting. And we had five boy wrestlers and two female wrestlers compete at state, and each of them picked up at least one win in the double elimination bracket. We also had Color Guard had seen their highest score ever as they took the top spot in the Scholastic Color Guard category at the tournament in Everett. And our Applettes had success across all levels. JV team placed first in their categories, and varsity won second place trophies in military and kick. So fun stuff as we are closing down our winter sports, and spring sports begin on Monday. Also, Romeo and Juliet is on the docket for the Wenatchee High School spring play. You can secure your tickets now for March 7th and 8th or March 13th through 15th. And Harrison, how does it feel to be the sole remaining person in the room? You're holding it down, buddy. You got this though. Okay. And speaking of Harrison, our Superintendent's Advisory Council had its monthly meeting on February 12th, where we discussed board meetings, we discussed policy, and we are planning for some new members for the next year's Superintendent's Advisory Council. We also have a work meeting tomorrow so that we can get down to some of the details. So we haven't had a work meeting yet, and the students asked for some time to work on all the initiatives that we're tackling. So that'll be tomorrow. Did you find a ride? You got to make up those tests. All right, we'll fill you in. We also, just to let folks know that with our project management group, the CLOSH group, last week we worked with them to submit an application to the project review committee at the state level to launch a progressive design build project for tackling the Wenatchee Valley Technical Skills Center 4-phase remodel that was funded by state grants. And so we're moving through that process, and we're excited about presenting and defending in front of the state on March 27th. That'll be a new one for me. So looking forward to that. So thank you. That is my superintendent's report.
Thank you. Now we have board communication. So let's start with Maria.
Again, big congratulations to Ben Matson, all our swimmers and wrestlers that went to state. And just, I know from a higher ed perspective, it has been a very challenging last couple of weeks with so many executive orders coming in. And I just want to thank our leadership at the local level, at the state level, for putting students first. We heard it today, our community citizen comment. We've put out messages. It's a really challenging time for our country. And we're very fortunate that, again, our state puts students at the forefront, youth of these decisions, and just acknowledge that the work of educators, administrators, leadership it's not easy right now. It's not easy. And I'll tell you, I've lost more sleep over in the last 3 weeks than I did over COVID in this role. So thank you for everything.
Julie?
I just want to say thank you to our community for supporting our levy and making sure that we can continue to provide all the great programs that we have. It would be amazing if our legislature would ever fully fund us, but we genuinely appreciate the support and everyone who went out and waved signs and helped get people to the polls. It makes a difference, not for me necessarily personally, but for all the students, all the staff, all of everyone in this community. So I appreciate it greatly. And then I've just had some fun wrapping up the winter sports season, watching some basketball games, watching teams improve despite, not fabulous records, but good improvement as teams. And I appreciate the presentation we had yesterday with the learning and teaching staff, because I do think as down as I was on the data today, that was very, very helpful. And I do appreciate the techniques and the pieces that are going into really moving the needle. So thank you for that.
Martin.
I asked meeting chair Miranda Skaliski to allow me to make an announcement and to speak longer, maybe much longer than you want to hear than normal during board communication. I begin with thanking the voters of Wenatchee for renewing the educational programs and operations levy. School funding rests on 3 legs: the state apportionment, which is always an underfunding and has added peril because Washington state faces a severe projected deficit; federally funded programs, which are hostage to whatever happens in Washington, D.C., and the one source where we have local control. The levy is more precious than ever. I've been an engineer and a business and logistics executive, so I recognize an efficient choice to invest in our community's future. I've also been a development economist, so I recognize mutual benefit, that win-win, something each for you, something for me, smart choice that balances taxes and benefits to maximize the size of the pie, which can then be shared unselfishly by all who live here. Funding of public schools is the strongest foundation of the American dream. My announcement is that I will not be a candidate for the Wenatchee School Board at-large position in this year's election. And my purpose at speaking for maybe too long is to encourage well-intentioned and capable people to file for the election before the May deadline. And when I took on this task, Miranda, I didn't realize maybe some of it would be useful if we have applicants for when you sadly resign. This is my 6th year on the board. People often say, gee, it must be tough. Sometimes it was, but my overwhelming take home is how rewarding it is. I have friends from kindergarten to the superintendent, many of whom I would never otherwise have known, and what a loss that would have been to my life. I'm becoming error prone and see my signs of aging. And now what I want to do is give some guidance on the nature and responsibilities of the school director job. It's a bit of a target. I read from Policy 1111, the oath of office. Our oath is we support the constitutions of the United States and the state of Washington. We promote the interests of education, and we faithfully discharge our duties of office. Then Policy 1220, directors have no individual power or authority. Actions are taken by the board as a whole when legally in session, just as we are right now. In a healthy board, members talk and listen to each other respectfully, try to reach decisions open-mindedly as colleagues, and do their best to help convert these decisions into outcomes that benefit K-12 education. I am privileged that today's Wenatchee School Board has this culture. It's not about imposing your personal preferences. However, coaching, encouraging, and suggesting are the heart of the job. Policy 1220 also says board members will not assume responsibilities of administrators or other staff members. There is a statutory separation of powers between the board, the superintendent, who is the chief executive officer and the only person who reports directly to the board, and all the many professional employees of the district, teachers and others, who report to the superintendent. The board is the governance conscience, I think that word conscience is important, of the district, the ultimate authority on strategy, approves policies that are in compliance with the law using expert advisors, and approves budgets making use of recommendations prepared by the district's employees. That is how the team fits together. And I think that's what board directors need to know. I want to move on over to what's mostly fun stuff. Are there work areas that a potential board director thinks might be special? A director may not have any control, but can encourage and coach and even be a catalyst. I want to give some examples from my experience of the kinds of involvements that a director can touch, and new board members will be able to find their own priority contributions. My first was financial literacy, the survival knowledge needed to manage personal affairs in the real world after high school. Olympia is still debating a bill to make that a learning requirement. The Wenatchee School District built this knowledge into its curriculum 4 years ago. This was achieved by using partners, perhaps my favorite part of the strategic plan. We cannot succeed alone. The financial literacy implementation would not have been possible without the added help and service of the nonprofit group YASET. Financial literacy is an example of how Wenatchee School District is often an early actor in identifying and reacting to emerging needs. Youth voice, that's for you. As students put it, they are the experts in what it's like to live inside schools. I've sat on the sidelines of the Superintendent's Student Advisory Council since its beginning 4 years ago. And right now there's an effort to find a good way for the board also to receive student representation and input. I just say that our students are awesome in their insights, their generosity, and their wisdom. If we listen, we will be able to improve. Weakness in mathematics. I applaud the district's determined effort to defeat what is a national problem. And I want to repeat, national problem. It will take patience. A child's K-12 education journey takes 13 years, and it is difficult for students to recover if their start is imperfect. Add the dimension that in mathematics, a mindset change is needed to overcome widespread fear of mathematics, an emotional attitude that many students inherit from our society. I lived and worked in Latin American countries for 12 years before immigrating to Wenatchee in 1990. Being able to communicate in Spanish and having some understanding of other cultures of the Americas has been valuable. Before I was elected, I put myself into good communication with the Parent Advisory Committee, joined in activities designed to promote education for students of Latin American origin, and maintained a strong relationship that has been fruitful for both sides. It is important for the board to be aware of and serve all students. When I joined the board, I recommended establishing a budget committee. I've been a member since the committee was formed by interim superintendent Bill Eagle. What I value as I prepare to leave is that this committee, 2 board members with key district personnel, now looks not just at next year's budget, but in advance thinks and prepares for the long term. I want to correct inaccurate perceptions of the district's financial management. During turbulent times, difficult decisions were made and managed. Reserves were kept safely above requirements. The district retains its Moody's financial rating, refinanced its bond debt to save $6 million, and kept its high trust level with the Washington State auditors. Early identification and reaction to adverse financial situations is often uncomfortable. Then what's special about the district and would be an incentive to becoming a board member? In music and arts and in career and technical education, Wenatchee has programs of regional, even national renown. Mariachi and jazz both have festival weeks in which professionals come to give workshops to our students. A year ago, a creative economy, that's in inverted commas, delegation of high-powered private and public sector officials from the Republic of Kyrgyzstan came to Wenatchee Valley to learn about tech development. They were blown away by their half-day at the high school and the skills center, especially by the entrepreneurship they saw in the students and their programs. The diversity and range of opportunities for young people is powerful. The AVID program, Advancement via Individual Determination, is extraordinary. Advanced high cap and college level courses, the amazing culture, character, and achievements coming from Westside Alternative High School. Field science programs for younger children and onwards. Then there are weaknesses to be tackled. Aged infrastructure in the buildings is one. 2 committees have been formed to address long-term needs, the Facilities Committee and the Restructuring Committee. Members come from the public and private sectors, families, and students. The Facilities Committee includes 2 board directors. I give a shout out to one very special partner, the Chelan County PUD's huge impact in backing the conversion of old infrastructure to energy efficiency, at the same time sponsoring an awesome CTE student intern project. My personal hope is that we will move forward to recommending a capital levy to fund the most critical needs. I think a person can be proud to serve a vibrant edutech institution that reaches for excellence. Thanks for letting me speak. I hope this encourages people who want to be a board director to step forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. I don't have anything for board communication, so this meeting will be adjourned. All right.